Hey everyone, today we are talking about something that could save your business thousands of dollars or maybe even save you from a legal disaster. We all know that contracts need a termination clause, but what most people, even business owners and professionals, forget is the need for a consequences of termination clause. Let me explain why this matters, and I promise I'll share some real-life examples that will make you think twice about signing your next contract without one. Imagine this. You and your friend start a cafe together. You sign a partnership agreement or shareholders agreement. The contract says that either party can terminate the agreement with 30 days notice. Simple, right? 1 year later, business is booming, but your friend wants out. He gives you 30 days notice, sells you his shares, and walks away. Here's the problem. What happens to the $20,000 worth of coffee machines he helped pay for? Does he get refunded for the capital he put in? Who owns the customer list? Who pays the outstanding suppliers? The partnership agreement or shareholders agreement says how to end the relationship, giving 30 days notice, but it says nothing about what happens after it ends. That's what a consequences of termination clause does. It answers the then what question. Let's break it down in simple terms using divorce as an analogy. A termination clause is the divorce. A consequences of termination clause are the terms of the divorce. Who gets what, who pays who, and what rights survive after termination. Without it, you're stepping into a legal void full of uncertainty. Now let me walk you through some real-life scenarios that show what can go wrong without a consequences of termination clause. First scenario, the freelancer fiasco. A startup hires a graphic designer to create branding and social media content. The contract allows either party to terminate with 7 days notice. Midway through the project, the company terminates the contract. But the contract doesn't say what happens to the unfinished work. Now, the company wants the designer's draft files, but the designer refuses, saying he was never paid for them. The company argues they paid 50% upfront, so they should get something. A consequences of termination clause could have stated, upon termination, all drafts and materials created up to the date of termination shall be delivered to the company, provided payment is made on a pro rata basis. Without that clause, stalemate. Lawyers step in. Everyone loses time and money. Second scenario, the software subscription nightmare. A company subscribes to a software platform for customer management. The subscription agreement is silent on what happens upon termination. 3 years later, they switch to a new provider and terminate the old contract by giving 1 month's notice. But guess what? The software company deletes all their customer data stored on the platform within 24 hours. The company scrambles. They didn't download a backup and the client database is gone. A simple clause stating that upon termination, the service provider shall provide all client data in usable format within 30 days. Such a clause could have prevented the disaster. Third scenario, the franchise fallout. Imagine that a business owner buys a franchise. The contract has a termination clause, but no consequences of termination clause. Years later, she ends the franchise agreement, but she continues using the franchisor's brand and the logo and recipes, suppliers, even the name for a few months. The franchisor sues. But the contract was vague about the intellectual property rights and what happens post-termination. A consequences of termination clause could have said, upon termination, the franchisee shall cease to use all trademarks, proprietary recipes, supplier contacts, and shall return all confidential materials. That clause would have clearly defined what she couldn't do after the contract ended, and possibly avoided a lawsuit. Most people are eager to define how to get out of a contract, but they forget to define what happens after they get out. It's like building an escape hatch, but not checking what's on the other side of the door. Is it a soft landing or a 10-story drop? The consequences of termination clause helps to prevent future disputes, define post-contract obligations, protect your business assets, data, and intellectual property, clarify what payments or refunds, if any, are due. I have seen how expensive and painful it gets when people overlook this clause. And unfortunately, by the time they realize the mistake, the relationship has already broken down. If you are entering into any contract, whether it's employment, partnership, service, franchise, or licensing, always ask, what happens if this ends? And make sure that answer is written down clearly in the consequences of termination clause. Thanks for joining me in today's video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.